Leonardo da Vinci's Adoration of the Magi is a largely unknown, yet hugely influential piece of art that depicts an alternate presentation of the three Magi's gifts to the Christ child. While the majority of paintings depicting the Magi's adoration of the Christ had the Magi, Jesus, his mother, Joseph, stable animals, and a stable within the confines of the image, Leonardo omits all but Christ, Mary, and the three Magi. Though that begs the question, why did Leonardo omit such an important detail from his painting? My theory is that each character lends to his intended symbolism that is to be found within the work. First, though, before we can analyze the symbolic nature of his work, it's necessary to understand the contrast between the image foreground, midground, and background. The foreground of the painting features Madonna and her child sitting at the center of a smooth slope surrounded by fervent worshippers, confused citizens, and rapacious youth. The child, our Christ, reaches down from his mother's lap to both acknowledge the humbled Magi and accept his gift of either incense, frankincense, or myrrh. The other two Magi bow low as they wait for the Christ to accept their own gifts and acknowledge their obedience. While the interactions between the Magi and Jesus are historically significant, it is the reactions of the crowd that tell a much more provocative story. Behind the first Magi crouch two elderly men and two young women. The first elder clutches both his head and his heart as he is graced by the sight of the Christ figure. Leonardo presumably characterized this man in such a way in order to convey the sense of disorientation, jubilation, and catharsis that the crowd experiences at this moment. Jesus' presence was a catalyst for change in whichever regions he visited. Older men and women who have grown complacent within their lives will simply not have the flexibility nor the malleability or the nature that children do. The man is both excited and confused, but around him are two corpse-like figures. These corpse-like figures help distinguish the immortal and holy mother and son from the rest of the genteel crowd. Further to the left of the crowd is a man on a horse who looks on in disgust. This jaded follower is a necessary addition within the foreground as he is representative of the population who doubted the legitimacy of Mary's and the Magi's claims. After all, Jesus was prophesied and believed to be a conquering hero, not some poor carpenter's child born within a stable. The contortion of his head also lends to the idea that more people exist within the historical setting of the picture, but simply have not been placed in the frame. Near the foreground are 5 children. 2 children kiss while the other 3 children look on apathetically at the frightened adults. The children, as mentioned in Matthew 18:13, are the ones who inherit the kingdom of heaven. Unlike the old man and the corpse-like figures, the children are malleable, innocent, and ungrounded within their habitual lifestyles. They are ready to follow Christ, for they are pure of heart. Near the back left of the midground, a mounted, armored man slaughters naked, horseless men who are weakly trying to defend themselves. While some attempt to mount a defense, others simply flee. If we expand this image, we can see a crumbling ruin. The ruin appears almost unfinished as sketch marks are visible near the back right of the structure and next to the support beams. And finally, near the back right of the painting, there appears to be a downed bull and 2 mounted men striking at one another and the bull. It seems odd to me that Leonardo would leave such a painting unfinished. He was given the commission by the San Donato Brotherhood in 1481 and abandoned the project a year later to leave for Milan to work for the Duke as a military contractor. At first, I thought it was odd that a man often remembered for his meticulousness would leave such a painting as this unfinished. But then I came to the conclusion that Leonardo had left it exactly as he desired to, because he had accomplished what he needed to with his symbology. In the Adoration of the Magi, Leonardo applies his traditional color palette to the painting, and he has also implemented his pyramid stability. It's typical for many Renaissance paintings to use pyramid stability, as it lends a calming effect to an image. Da Vinci uses this technique in many of his paintings. The pyramid helps to contrast a calmer foreground from a chaotic background. This is prevalent also in The Last Supper and in the Mona Lisa. But before I move on to an analysis of Leonardo's symbolism, a small snippet of video from Dan Brown's Robert Langdon will help set the tone.
Language that can help us understand our past. As the saying goes, a picture says 1,000 words, but which words? Interpret for me, please, this symbol, first thing that comes to mind, anybody.
Hatred, racism.
Ku Klux Klan.
Yes, interesting. But they would disagree with you in Spain. There they are robes worn by priests. Now, this symbol, anyone?
Evil.
La fourche des diables.
In English, please.
Devil's pitchfork.
Poor Poseidon. That is his trident, a symbol of power to millions of the ancients. Now, this symbol.
Madonna and child.
Faith, Christianity.
No, No, it's a pagan god Horus and his mother Isis centuries.
As Robert Langdon mentioned earlier, a symbol says 1,000 words or more. Da Vinci made it abundantly clear throughout his life that he was no ardent Christian, and neither did he totally respect the jurisdiction of the Church. So why would he agree to take on this commission from the Sandinata Brotherhood? I'm guessing it's because he wanted to inject multiple layers of symbols within his work to reflect history in both the 4th century and the 15th century. The ancient ruins bordering the top left edge of the painting resembled the Basilica of Maxentius. The basilica stood as Rome's last piece of architecture that was constructed before Rome fell to the Byzantine Empire in 312 AD. Emperor Constantine of the Byzantine Empire and Emperor Maxentius of the Roman Empire went head-to-head at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. After leaving the safety of Rome due to the advice of his soothsayers, Maxentius and his troops marched towards their defeat. The battle ended in slaughter as Maxentius and all his men were decimated by Constantine's much stronger cavalry force. After the battle concluded, Constantine paraded Maxentius' head through the streets of Rome. This battle acted as the first Christian crusade against the pagan empire. Now, near the ruins of the Basilica, armored horsemen fight naked, horseless men. And all through the slaughter, the Basilica of Maxentius crumbles to the ground. So, just keep that in mind for later. To further amplify the illusion of Constantine's routing of Maxentius' forces, the right side of the foreground features multiple armored horsemen attacking what seems to be a giant bull. Within the context of the Bible, the bull has come to be a symbol of paganism, as it made its first appearance in Exodus when the wandering Israelites constructed a golden calf to worship while Moses traversed Mount Sinai. With the symbolic death of the pagan bull and the slaughter of the horseless and armorless troops, the dominance of pagan religion within the Western world gives way to a rising popularity of monotheistic Christianity. But once again, Leonardo proves quite adept at layering in symbols within his work. It is my belief that he uses the understanding of Christ's position as Redeemer and the destruction of paganism by Constantine to set the scene for his next level of symbolism. A little background here. Milan and Firenze fought bitterly from 1277 to 1447 AD. When the Visconti family took control of Milan in 1277 and enacted the one-family form of rule, Milan was both propelled to wealth and glory by the Viscontis, but also was brought to war with Venice and Firenze. Only until the death of the last Visconti in 1447 AD did Firenze and Milan find themselves at peace. Francesco Sforza, an ambitious but really benevolent nobleman, seized power in Milan and transformed the city into a nursery of Renaissance learning and bustling commerce. And during his reign, he even constructed the Milanese Duomo, the church Santa Maria delle Grazie, and a lot of other cool structures. It seemed like Da Vinci really wanted to model this period of strife and resolution within the Adoration of the Magi. In the painting, Jesus sits among a crowd obviously distressed but at the same time relieved to see the Savior. In the same way, Francesco Sforza fulfills this deity-like role in coming to save Milan from further conflict by the Viscontis. The ruined Basilica of Maxentius is the old Milan that Sforzas will leave behind before constructing their new version of Italian paradise. Leonardo da Vinci effected change within every field of academia he touched, and art was no exception. The Adoration of the Magi acts doubly as a symbol, both by imagining the fall of paganism in the 3rd century Rome and by reflecting on local Milanese and Florentine culture through a representation of Christ's interaction with the Magi. My final thought is this. Is Leonardo the Christ-like figure that goes to Milan? Does he bring revolution, change, and innovation to the city? I don't know. It's a fun little question. Maybe the artwork was meant to be autobiographical. Who knows? But anyways, thank you for listening, and hope you all have a good day.